What is going on, YouTube? In this video, I am going through my week 7 player prop picks. This video is going to be pretty long. I'm going to go through pretty much every single player prop that I posted on my card throughout the week. Some of these lines might move by the time you watch this, but I think you're going to like all the plays that you're going to see here, and hopefully you can make some cash off them. So I'm just going to jump right into it. But before I do, just a quick reminder, join the free Discord server. The link to join is in the description below. I post some free slips in there, but it's a really good community, really good place to be, and just be active. It'll be a fun place when a lot of people are in there sweating their bets and posting their plays and stuff, especially with the NBA starting on Tuesday this week. And then secondly, subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video too. I'm going to push to try to get more content out for you guys, more live streams, more videos, similar to this format where I'm just running through all of my plays for the day or the week or whatever. So let's just jump right into it. I've got a few monitors here, so you might see me looking back and forth just because my notes are, spread out everywhere. But I'm going to go right into it. First off, my first play this week was Quinshon Judkins it was actually over 78.5 rushing yards. But I do want to talk about it because this line has moved so much with the weather concerns in the Dolphins and Browns game. Last I looked, there are potentials to be up to like 45 to 50 mile an hour gusts. Rainy, really bad, just weather in general, and definitely bad football weather, which is probably going to lean more towards this game being on the ground. Plus, the Browns are slight home favorites too. We all know the narratives about how the Dolphins, don't play well going in the north and playing in bad weather too. So some really good things in Quinshon Judkins' favor. Now, this 99.5 line, that's too high. Quite frankly, I don't think I could bet on this 99.5 line. He had 110 in the one game. The line that I got early on in the week was 78.5 is what I got. It's showing 79.5 here. But anyways, I got 79.5 earlier in the week. The Dolphins have allowed 300 rushing yards, over 300 rushing yards over the last 2 weeks to Vidal and Rico Dowdle. And obviously, Judkins is next up as being home favorites against the Dolphins here. Since week 3, Judkins is handling 78% of the team's rush attempts and averaging 80.5 yards per game. He has 82 or more yards in 3 of the last 4 games, and the Dolphins are allowing the most rushing yards per game to running backs this season. So, really good spot for Judkins. I'm not fully sure if I can risk going up to that 99.5 number, but the 79.5 is a pretty good parlay filler over on PrizePicks. Another play from this game I want to touch on is Devon Achane under 32.5 receiving yards. And so the reasoning behind this, Achane's gone under this number in 5 out of 6 games so far, and the Browns are only allowing 18.5 receiving yards per game to running backs this season. That is third best in the NFL. Josh Jacobs is the only running back to have over 18 yards against them. So if I scroll down here, you see Justice Hill had 18 receiving yards. Josh Jacobs had 44. However, the Josh Jacobs stat line is kind of inflated because of a 33-yard catch he caught in the game. So if you throw away that one play, even though that's generally not the way you have to think of things, but if you were to throw it away, he only had 11 other receiving yards in that game. So solid spot for Achane to go under this number. It's moved down slightly. I think it's down at 30.5 over on PrizePicks. That number's fine too. I don't think I'd go below the 30.5, but if you get 32.5 anywhere, solid number on the Achane under. And then one more prop in the same game, since I talked about these other players, I might as well throw another one in here. Ollie Gordon under 15.5 rushing yards. Same thing. This Browns defense, they don't give up a lot of yards in general. Only 66.8 rushing yards per game for 5th best in the NFL. Scrolling down and looking at the rush attempts for Judkins, he had the one game against Buffalo, which everyone saw. I think it was on primetime. He had 9 rush attempts for 38 yards, and I think he might have had a touchdown or a touchdown called back or something there. But then he had 6 carries, and then he had 3 carries, and then he only had 2 carries last week against the Chargers. I think he's kind of getting filtered out of this offense, and Achane's just really taking the reins as just the every down player. And, maybe they're trying to show off Achane for a potential trade in the future. I'm not really sure, or just letting him do his thing. But I don't think Ollie Gordon's really going to be involved enough in this offense. Maybe 3 or 4 carries. I doubt he goes over this 15.5 number against a really strong defensive front like the Browns. Next play here, we're going to go to the London game, and we're going with another under on the rushing yards, and it's Kyren Williams, under 69.5 rushing yards. The Jaguars are only allowing 68 yards per game on the ground this year to running backs, and that is sixth best in the NFL. The Jaguars actually have not allowed any running backs to go over 57 yards in a game this season. So really strong stat there, especially when this line is 69.5 for Kyren Williams. Granted, they haven't faced, any bell cows like Kyren. There was a mix between Charbonnet and Walker, a mix between Pacheco and Hunt, a mix between, Brian Robinson and McCaffrey. McCaffrey is really not a big time, rushing guy anymore. A mix between Chubb and Marks, and then they'll Chase Brown early in week one, but we all know how the Bengals are in week two, but we all know how the Bengals are doing this year. But basically, Kyron's gone under this number in 4 out of 6 games this season, and his rushing share is down to 57% after hovering around 70% to start the season, because they are starting to include Blake Corum a bit more in this offense, and he is stealing just a couple carries from Kyron, but that might be enough against the Jaguars for him to go under his rushing total. Next play, we are going to go over to Giants and Broncos. I got a few plays here I want to touch on. Number one, Cortland Sutton over 59.5 receiving yards. If you're on Underdog and PrizePicks, that number's up to 62.5 now. I'm looking at it the same way. It doesn't really make too much of a difference for me, but I'm going to focus on this 59.5 number. I actually got 57.5 on Tuesday earlier in the week, but that's why it's important to be in the server. You get these plays right when I place them super early in the week. So the Giants are allowing over 178 yards per game to receivers this year. That is the worst in the NFL. A lot of people think the Cowboys are the worst pass defense in the NFL. The Giants are the absolute worst. I mean, granted, this is inflated by a couple of games. That one against the Cowboys, that was like one of the most highest scoring games you'll see in the league in the last few years. But they are giving up a lot of yards, and Cortland Sutton is in a really big bounce back spot after a down game last week against the Jets. He only had 1 catch on 3 targets for 17 yards last week in London against New York. This is just a total smash spot for him to get back on the horse and just kind of make up for what happened last week. I do think this game can go one of two ways, though, because the Broncos are decent home favorites in this one of about 7.5 points, 7 points or so. So you can either go with Sutton overs and expect him to get a few long catches, or you can go with J.K. Dobbins overs too. One of the two. I think they're both fine. You could take both if you really wanted to on a slip, but if you wanted to pick one, just pick a side, because I think the Broncos are going to win this game. Vegas thinks they're going to win. They are decent favorites in this one. The Giants' run defense isn't as bad as their passing defense, but it's still not great. Let me scroll down here and get my notes for Dobbins really quick. So Dobbins, she's handling 61.8% of the carries over the last 2 weeks for Denver. He basically took over as the bell cow running back over the last few weeks. Giants, like I said before, allowing 98.8 rushing yards per game for 23rd in the league, or 10th worst or so. It's just a really strong spot. He's gone over this number in 5 of 6 games. Giants have allowed some really big games to Hampton. Miller and Kamara ran for a decent amount against them. Javonte Williams ran for 97 yards. Just a solid spot for Dobbins over on his rushing yards prop. If you want to take this as a parlay filler, I hit these at about 90%. That 39.5 number is really solid. He's gone over this number every single time. Giants have allowed 6 players to go for 40 plus against them in 6 games. So really good spot for J.K. Dobbins there. I got a couple more regular bets I'm going to touch on. Like I said, this is going to be really informal. Me going through all my notes, just throwing out all of my plays at you. So if you like this format, let me know in the comments, and I'll keep doing it like this. If not, then I'll go back to the old way where it's just 2 or 3 quick hitters for you all. Next play I'm touching on is A.J. Brown under 61.5 receiving yards. Minnesota has only given up 96.6 receiving yards per game this year to wide receivers. That is the best in the NFL. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a pretty good game. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a pretty good game rushing. But as for throwing the ball and passing and receiving yards, I'm leaning most of the unders for the Eagles. Even if they go down early against the Vikings, I still don't think A.J. Brown's going to get there. Basically, he's gone under this number in 4 to 6 games. His range of outcomes is insane. He's had 7 yards, he's had 8 yards, but then he's also had 80 yards and 109 yards. let's see. The Vikings have the best pass defense. So DK Metcalf is the only player to go over 68 yards against them. And DJ Moore is the only wide receiver to go over 50 yards. They held Jamar Chase, Drake London, and Romo Dunze all under 50 yards this season. So AJ Brown and honestly Devonta Smith, one or both of these players will go under this week. So I would take either or of them to go under their receiving prop. And then my last regular play before I get into the parlay fillers. This is actually my favorite play of the week. It's always my favorite play whenever it's on the board. CeeDee Lamb over 24.5 longest reception. If I filter for games with Dak Prescott and I only want to look at the games where either Dak played the full game or CeeDee Lamb played the entire game, we'll go back to last year. So Lamb went over this number 7 out of 8 games last year, which is really good. That 8th game, that's the game when Dak Prescott got hurt. So I'm going to throw that one out. Prescott wasn't in the full game, didn't give Lamb the full opportunity to go over this number. So 7 out of 7 games last year of 27 plus. Heading into this year, 32 yards, 33 yards, and then 0 because he got hurt on the second play of the game. So that's a 9 out of 9 sample size when both these players are healthy and playing in the game. I don't think Lamb gets limited. And honestly, he got over these numbers like on his first or second catch of the game every time anyways. So it's only going to take one for him to go over this longest reception number. I got 24.5 over on Underdog Fantasy. I think it might be 25.5. I would take this all the way up to 26.5, but I probably wouldn't go over 27.5 if you had that option. So that's my favorite regular prop in the week. Now I'm going to move over to the parlay fillers. These are plays that I hit about 90% of the time. So 90% win rate. I hit them like this for WNBA, NBA, and NFL. These are just money makers. And what you should do, you should take 3 or 4 of these and just mix and match them, combine them into some parlays like that. Maybe do one slip with like all 6 or 7 of them. Hope you hit them all. But like I said, it's a 90% hit rate historically on these parlay fillers. So these are going to be a bit quicker than the other plays, but there are more of them. First one I want to touch on is Jaden Daniels over 189.5 passing yards. Now, I know this is a little bit scary with the current wide receiver situation for Washington. Deebo Samuel's out. Terry McLaurin out. Zach Ertz, questionable, but probably going to play. He's throwing to Chris Moore, Jalen Lane, and Luke McCaffrey. Not the most fearful wide receiver core out there. But this is more of a matchup thing. So Daniels has gone over in all 4 games this season. He's averaging 218.8 yards per game. Dallas is allowing 269.5 passing yards per game. That is worst in the NFL. Like I talked about before, the Giants are giving it up to wide receivers specifically. The Cowboys are just giving it up altogether. That's combined between receiving yards to running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. That's where the difference kind of plays there. But Dallas has allowed 206, every quarterback except Jalen Hurts has gone over 200 yards against them. And let's be honest, Hurts is kind of a bum. He had 199 yards, but he still went over this 189.5 number, even with his really bad passing game a couple of weeks ago. So there's a really solid spot for Jaden Daniels on this parlay filler. I'll be playing it with a lot of slips. Second parlay filler, we're going to Drake May over 9.5 rushing yards. Drake May, he's averaging 23 rushing yards per game this season, and he's gone for 11 plus every single time. He also went for 12 or more in 12 out of 13 games last season. The Titans have allowed 4 out of 6 quarterbacks to go for 11 or more rushing yards, with the only 2 not going over this number being Geno Smith and Matt Stafford, who really you wouldn't expect either of those guys to go over a rushing number at this point in their careers. So it's a solid spot for Drake May against the Titans, even if they do get a big lead. And, hopefully you don't get screwed on some kneels or anything later on there. But I do think he'll go a decent amount over this 9.5 rushing yards prop. Next, we're going to head over to Packers and Cardinals, talk about the both tight ends in that game. First one is Trey McBride over 39.5 receiving yards. Like I said, the parlay filler, he's averaging 57.8 yards per game. He had 72 last week with Brissett at quarterback. Kyler Murray is out again. Honestly, Kyler Murray should probably go to the batting cage and maybe pick up baseball at this point in his career because football just ain't it for him. The Packers are allowing 59.6 yards per game to tight ends this season, and they've allowed 4 tight ends to go over this number already this season as well. Good spot for McBride to go over on his alternate line. And then a tight end on the other side, Tucker Kraft. over 24.5 receiving yards. Arizona is allowing the third most receiving yards per game of tight ends this season with 69.5 receiving yards per game. Kraft has gone over this number in 4 to 5 games, absolutely smashing it a few of the times, 124 yards against Washington, 56 against Dallas, and then, 43 against Cincinnati, which was decent enough. But 7 tight ends have gone for 25 or more yards against Arizona in 6 games this season. And honestly, most of the tight ends on this list are not tight ends to fear. Tyler Warren, he's a stud. He might be this year's Brock Bowers. Chinga Okonkwo, decent receiving tight end, but he's nothing like amazing. Gunnar Helm, 34 yards. AJ Barner, 32 yards. Jatavion Sanders, who actually is pretty decent, 54 yards. Just a really good spot for Tucker Kraft to go over this number, and it doesn't really take much to go over 25 yards. I already touched on the J.K. Dobbins play. 39.5 rushing yards is a solid play there. And then one final one from the Eagles and Vikings that I kind of hinted on a little bit earlier. Jordan Mason, over 49.5 rushing yard. He's handling 67% of the team's rush attempts since Aaron Jones got hurt. That was back in, I believe, week 3 or so. The Eagles have allowed 7 players to go for 53 or more yards against them in 6 games, and they're allowing 99 rushing yards per game this season to running backs. So that's a slew of plays, a quick hitter. I think I did this in under 20 minutes for you. Apologies if I spoke too fast on a few of them. You can always slow it down or, go back and forth and find the plays. But I just wanted to get all this information out to you guys. I did a live stream on TikTok earlier today too, just going through the same stuff. I think in the future, what I'll do is I'll do all this on the live stream, and then I'll just cut the live stream there and post it for you guys. But hopefully you guys like this format. If you do, let me know in the comments, and also just let me know in the Discord too, if you want me to keep doing things like this for you all, because I do a really good job at finding really good plays. It's providing the good content for you guys is where I struggle. So that's where I'm trying to improve on the most. So appreciate you guys sticking around to the end. If you did, best of luck on your bets this week. And thank you guys for all the support as always.